What's happening, everybody? Back with some of my nonsense. When I'm chilling out here in the truck stop out here in Wisconsin for quite a long time, for 48 hours, man. And it's kind of hard to be a good boy, let me tell you that, because I come wheeling in here, and I look to the right over here, about 100 yards, there's a Country Marriott. Got the pool, hot tub, the whole schnizzle. There's a nice bar right over there, about 200 yards. And I'm like, when I first pull in, I'm like, oh yeah, it's going down, brother. I'm getting me a fucking motel. I'm going to that bar. We're going to get fucked up and have a good time. And then I decided, like, man, I really don't even feel like getting all drunked up and feeling all hungover and shit. So, I don't know. The motel still looks good because obviously got more room, shower and pool and all that bullshit. And I'm not just stuck here in this truck. But $169 a night they want for that fucking place. So I'm like, oh hell no, I'll stay in the truck for free, man. It don't make much sense to run the extra load like I just did and then go spend $169 on a fucking motel. But that brings me to a question. You ever got fucked up in a truck stop? You know, that's something we used to do back in the day. People don't do so much nowadays. I know they do, because I watch people carry bags of beer out to their truck. But you know, back in the day, one thing we used to do is when you pulled off of the back row like this, you know, you might see a guy out there and have his grill, a little propane grill or whatever out there, and get chatting with him. Another guy gets chatting with him. Next thing you know, everybody's like, fuck it, let's have a little shindig here, you know. Somebody bobtails over to the supermarket, everybody pitches in a little bit of cash, get some steaks, some beer, some fucking potato salad, you know, all that bullshit. And you have a grill and chill, man. You bust off the lawn chairs. I've done it several times. Not this time around trucking. This is back when I first started in 2000, you know, like 2001, 2002, 2003, up around that area. When life was more relaxed and people weren't so fucking worried about everything. I broke down, you know, that was kind of a new thing. I've never had one of these rider lease trucks. Like, this is painted their company color and it has all their company shit on it, but they lease it from Ryder. Normally in the past, when I would break down, they would tow my truck to the shop. They would send me to a motel. They'd pay me like $200 a day to sit in that fucking motel and then pay for the motel. And then when the truck got fixed, I'd go get a truck and go back to work, right? I've never had one of these Ryder lease trucks like this. So when I broke down, they come out and towed this truck to Ryder, and then they gave me a sub truck. And I just took off with that, which is kind of a shit show. That actually sucked pretty bad. I got the sub truck. Of course, it was fucking dirty on the inside and shit like that. It was an International. I don't fucking like Internationals. I don't mind the way they drive. I just don't like they're so cramped up inside and all that shit, you know. But I made it work. I mean, could you imagine if you went and rented like a car, like a Prius or a Mustang or, you know, whatever from Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and you got in it and it was all fucking dirty and shit? That just don't happen. I've rented a lot of cars. People would take it back and be like, what the fuck, I don't want this dirty ass thing. They do that with trucks though. I don't understand that whole thing. So I got into that fucking truck, that Ryder truck, and I broke down to Columbus. I started heading down to my delivery down in North Carolina, and I got the fucking AC didn't work in it. So I had to sleep the night with no AC, and it was pretty warm. And I did something I normally don't ever fucking do, and I don't recommend doing. I mean, obviously I had the side windows back here open. I got screens in them and shit, but I left the front windows open, wide open, in at the rest area. I don't normally ever fucking do that. I just, trust me, I was fucking armed up and ready while I was sleeping, but it was just too hot. So I got through the night because it cooled down enough to where I could sleep, you know. And I had my fan and shit. But the next day I was like, fuck this. This thing has to be fixed, man. Like, there's just no way that I'm gonna fucking drive this thing down to South Carolina and shit and make it, you know. If it's fucking 90 degrees outside, it's like 110 in the truck. It just ain't happening. So I was like, trying to get another truck from Ryder. They didn't have another truck, and I'm like, well, fuck it then, you know, I'm gonna have to go to a fucking motel, you know, and just drive for the day and then park it at a motel for the night and then drive for the day, use it like a day cab. Well, Ryder ended up getting me into Charlotte, I guess is how they pronounce it, North Carolina. And I got handed to that rider there. They're pretty good. They got the fucker fixed like in 2 hours. And the rider places have showers there. So it really wasn't the end of the world. I got my AC fixed. I took a shower and life went on. I went and delivered that load. And then I just started pestering the living hell out of them all the way back. Telling them that I wanted my fucking truck back. And then I finally told them. I mean, I was literally calling like every hour and a half. They told me not to call no more. I just kept calling. So I just kept pestering the fuck out of them, and I told them, like, dude, I'm passing through right now, and I'm heading to fucking Denver. Like, I might not be back out there for weeks. You might not get your truck back. I obviously wanted mine back. So I got humbled on that whole thing, because you remember I was pissing and moaning about this truck being old and dirty and all that shit. I was happy to get back in here, because at least it's clean and it's got all my shit in it. You know, because I got it all cleaned up pretty good now. So I ended up pestering them, and they were like, finally, they were like, all right, we'll have it done at 9:30. You know, get here at 9:30. So I went in there at 9:30, took another shower, slept in their yard, and got my truck back, and, you know, life went on. So it wasn't that bad, but it sucks. And I'm kind of nervous in the back of my head a little bit about this truck breaking down. It seems to be a good truck, but, you know, 600,000 miles on it is right around the point where everything kind of takes a shit. You know, to go back on, I think I said in my last video, so when I flew out to Salt Lake for that asshole and got that truck and that whole deal that I said in my last video, and then he hasn't even fucking paid me. I'm actually suing him right at the moment for my money. Those violations that I got in the scale, they did end up on my fucking PSP. I mean, the whole trucking deal in general, man, it's getting to be kind of a hassle out here, you know? We're kind of up against the wall, man. Like, back in the day, people weren't so fucking worried about everything. I mean, technically, as truck drivers, we almost need, like, general liability insurance. Like, when I had my business, you know, I had to have, like, a form to LLC, so that if I got sued, they would sue the business and not sue me personally and take, like, my boat and my camper and my house and shit like that. But then I also had, like, general liability insurance. As a trucker, technically, we probably ought to have general liability insurance, and the companies ought to pay for it. Because now, like, when you get into an accident, they're suing the company, but then they're turning around and suing the driver, too. And they're winning. You know, they're taking people's houses and shit. Well, it's getting to a point where the risk isn't worth the reward. You know what I mean? Like, so you come out here and you drive for 10 years or whatever, and then all of a sudden you get in an accident and they take your fucking house or something. Did you make enough money over that 10-year period to make it worth that? No, you didn't, you know? And things just used to be more chill, you know? Like, I have a couple friends that went to prison, right? One went for 2 years and one went for 1 year for fatals. This was quite a while ago. But the deal with that is they actually fucked up. You know, they were cowboy trucking. They did the whole I'm gonna run the yellow light shit. And sometimes, yeah, with trucks, I mean, they don't stop very good. The way the light changes, you end up having to go through the fucker, because you're not gonna be able to stop. If you try, you'll end up in the middle of the intersection, shit like that. But these guys, like cowboy, were in a hurry, driving like assholes, ran the red light and killed people, right? And I understand that, you know. It sucked. They're friends of mine. I hate to see them go to prison, but I understand that they fucked up. But nowadays, man, you're up against the wall, because you don't even gotta do shit like that. Like, let me give you an example. You come up to a corner and you look down the road or whatever, and there's no signs that say no trucks or nothing, so you're like, cool, and you turn down the road, and this happens all over the place. Indiana, California, all over. And you turn down that fucking road and drive down X amount of miles or whatever, all of a sudden you come up to a corner and it says no trucks, straight. You look left, no trucks. You look right, no trucks. Like, wait, what the fuck? You should have said something about that back there. Where are you gonna go? You gonna go down the no truck routes and rip down all the cable lines and shit? Or get stuck under a bridge or something? No, you're probably gonna, if you're smart, you're gonna whip a fucking U-turn right in that intersection, right? Well, now you're whipping this U-turn. And this bozo's coming out of the pot shop all high or whatever. Nothing against that, but you know, on the phone or whatever, and they fucking blast into the side of you because they can't see this huge 75-foot fucking truck doing a U-turn in the middle of the intersection. Obviously, if you did a stupid U-turn, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen people do, where there's fucking cars coming at 50 miles an hour and all of a sudden they turn out. Like that, I get it, that's your fault. But like, if you pull in slow and there's, you know, no traffic hardly at all, and you're doing a U-turn and this guy pulls a bonehead maneuver, that shit's on you, man. Now you got a fatal on you or whatever. Like, this woman that worked at a company, I don't know, quite a few years ago that I worked at, she was getting onto the fucking highway in Georgia, and she got a message on her Qualcomm. So she pulled off onto the shoulder on the on-ramp real quick to check that message and shit, which is actually kind of really what you're supposed to do in a way, right? Because you're not supposed to be texting and shit while you're driving down the road. So she just pulled over there for a minute to see what that message is, and you want to check because maybe your load got canceled and you need to turn around and go the other way or something. Well, some fucking bitch comes around the corner too fast. Later on, they did an investigation on this, and I even heard it from the safety director, so she wasn't lying. She had bald tires on her car, like cords were showing. You know, that bald. It was raining. She was going too fast. She came around the corner and fucking slid and ran into the back of the truck and got fucked up. Sued the trucking company, tried to sue the driver. I don't know if she ever ended up suing the driver. But I remember that driver, she had to fly like back down to Georgia a bunch of times to go to court and all this shit. It was like a huge fucking hassle. And it wasn't really her fault, you know? But they were like, oh, if you wouldn't have been there, you know? Just shit like that. I seen another guy one time had an accident that I won't go into full details on, but it wasn't his fault. It was the other person's fault. And what they did is when he went to court for it, like 5 days before that, he had cheated on his logbook. But the other 4 days after that, and the day that the accident happened, he was running 100% legit on his logbook. In court, they went back and they said, and look at this on the internet, this happens quite a bit. The lawyers looked at it, and they said if he hadn't have cheated on his logbook 5 days ago, he wouldn't have been in that place at that time, and that accident would have never occurred. Well, how about that lady was a dumb fuck and ran the red light and ran into his ass? Because that's what happened. He was going through the fucking green light, you know? And she fucking ran it and T-boned him and then sued the trucking company. And won. And fucking won the lawsuit, man. So you see what I'm saying? Like, that shit's just, it's getting to be pretty fucking risky out here. Not worth it. So that's my thoughts on that. But I tell you what, the other day I was out in Virginia. I ended up in a bad fucking situation in Virginia. So I end up on this road, right? That if you've ever been to Virginia, man, the roads aren't very. You don't just get off and go willy-nilly out on the side roads in Virginia. So I end up on this road that's just narrow and curvy as fuck, right? Well, I look at everything before I go. I looked, the road on the GPS was yellow, so that means it's like a bigger road, right, supposedly. I turned the corner, I got up there, I looked left down, you know, make sure there was like no truck signs that say I couldn't go down there, nothing like that. Everything looked good. I turned the corner, I get down about a mile, I see like such and such scenic byway. I'm like, oh fuck. I get out there and fucking, man, it was pretty bad. So now I'm on this road, and this is how bad this fucking road was. I would have my steer tire over in the other lane on the white line in the other lane, right? So the shoulder on the other side of the road, and still be hanging my wheels on my trailer over the edge in my lane. And it's like Virginia, dude. You don't let the trailer go off the edge. You're gonna fucking fall down the hill or roll over or some shit. And then some of it's like straight, like mountain walls that you'll run into and stuff. Man, it was bad. I was like dodging tree limbs, hitting tree limbs. And then whenever time I come up to a corner, you know, I'd have to take the whole road. So I'd have to come up to the corner like real slow and make sure there ain't no cars coming. And they're doing like 55 because they're used to driving on that road. So they're ripping around these corners, and I almost got in a couple head-on collisions. And I was just praying, man, like, that I don't get, like further down the road and there's like a low bridge or something that I can't make, or a corner I can't make. You know, what do? You're at 9 miles down the fucking road. Think about this, man. 9 miles down the fucking road and all of a sudden there's a low bridge or a corner you can't make. These driveways ain't big enough to like back into it. There ain't enough room on the road. There ain't nothing. It's Virginia. And there's literally nothing. Nowhere to turn around. So you'd have to back that fucker out, right? Well, it ain't just the inconvenience of backing up 9 miles. You can't just start backing up down that road when the cars are coming around the corner at like 55 and shit. They're gonna run into the back of you. They're not expecting no truck to be backing down the road. Ain't like a fucking helicopter's gonna fly out and pick you up and turn you around. It ain't even one of those deals where you could have the wrecker come out and boom the truck or the trailer around or nothing like that. So you'd have to call the law out there and they'd have to shut that damn road down for you to back out of there. It'd be a mess, man. I was just thinking, God, get me through this fucking deal. It was bad. And then I get to the place and I pull up and I'm like, man, they fucked up. It was like a house. And I had that happen back in the day. I was in Pennsylvania. And what had happened is like on your load, like on your shipping information or whatever, you'll have the ship from, ship to, and then a lot of times they'll say like third party, and that's your billing address. You know, like when you order a pizza, you might have it delivered to this address, but your billing address on your card might be different, right? So my dispatcher had fucked up. And he didn't give me the shipping address. He gave me the doggone billing address. So I'm way out in Pennsylvania, all fucked up out there too. You don't want to go off on the back roads of Pennsylvania either, let me tell you that. Narrow shit out there. So I come pulling up way out. And it's his house. There's the address and it's a house. I'm like, what the fuck? These farmers are over here harvesting corn. And a guy come over and they're laughing. You know, this over-the-road truck's way out there in the fucking country. Guy walks up to me like, you having a bad day, huh? And I'm like, yeah, well, real bad fucking day, man. Like, I don't think I'm in the right spot. So I give him the address and he's like, well, actually, that's my address. That's my house right there. I hand the paper and he looks at it and he's like, oh, dude, he's like, that's my wife's company and we run an office out of the house, so that's the billing address or whatever. So that's how that all got fucked up. So what I ended up doing there is they let me turn around in the cornfield and they were prepared to pull me out with the tractor. I didn't get stuck. But I did come back into the city with fucking corn stalks and shit hanging off my truck. It was pretty funny. But it was a bad deal, stressful fucking deal, I'll tell you that shit. And that whole road in Virginia, man, I tell you, whew. So anyway, what happened there is I ended up looking down in the back and there was like a pole barn back in there. So I was like, fuck it, I walked back there. And the guy's like, yeah, you're in the right spot. What it was is like this little tiny business out there. They refurbish golf balls. Once I pulled back in there, there's plenty of room to turn around and shit. I get back in there and he's like, yeah, you're in the right spot and shit, we'll load you. He wants a pickup number, which was kind of funny. I'm like, yeah, dude. Show him my phone. Like, out here in the middle of nowhere, I ain't got no fucking service. He goes, well, you don't have it written down? Really, dude? Who writes shit down anymore? Like, really? Who writes shit down? It's on my phone. You got Wi-Fi here or what? I went on the Wi-Fi, you know, and got loaded and everything. But then I look at him, I go, man, you gotta tell me there's a better way out of here. He goes, what do you mean? Which way did you come in? And I told him, he looks at me, he goes, oh, dude. He starts laughing. He goes, you came in that way? He's like, I didn't even think a truck would fit down that road. I was like, fucking tell me about it, dude. Tell me all about it. Yeah, they fit, barely. And he just started laughing. So I found a different way out. It wasn't the best way out. It was still a little sketchy getting out, but I got out. And then I went on to, you know, make my delivery. It makes me appreciate shit, you know, like after that I went to a place where I could park in a bullpen and all that, and then I ended up in a truck stop the next night where I could take a shower, and then out here where I could take a shower and get food. And it makes you appreciate those nights where you don't gotta sleep on an on-ramp or some random parking lot, you know, where you're actually able to get into a truck stop. Even though I can still grumble about that sometimes, it does make me appreciate it. But I know as far as the trucking industry goes, the OTR shit, man, it's just not good right now, I tell you that. I know a lot of my friends and probably myself. We're kind of on the 2-year and out program right now. I have a bunch of friends that are doing the exact same thing that I'm doing. A few, anyway, when I say a bunch. And these guys and one's a female, have been driving a long time, And what we're doing is what we did, all right, is when we were making our $100,000 a year and everything, and when trucking was good, we went and bought motorcycles and RVs and fucking pickup trucks and all this bullshit, right? Well, now things ain't that good, and it kind of sucks, but we can't just up and quit because we got all that shit. So we were sitting around talking the other day, and I was surprised to find out that everybody's kind of on the same page. We're all just trying to get as many miles and stuff as we can right now, and doing the 2-year and out program. We want to pay off all of our shit and get rid of some stuff, and then we're going local, which kind of happens with old truck drivers like us. Is eventually we fucking get a local job and chill out. But it's happening. I mean, that's what my plan is, to be off the road in 2 years at the most, because the shit ain't good out here. I mean, I'm blessed. I'm still making money. This company's running me, but it's real what they're saying. I mean, even if you look at the tender rejection rate, which, if you don't know what tender rejection is, I'll explain that real fast. Okay, so how do you explain that? So you got the spot market, right? Which is basically just a shipper throws a load out to a broker or whatever, ends up on the board, and trucks go get the load, right? And then you got customer contract freight, is where they sign contracts. This company will sign on with a shipper, and they'll say, we'll haul X amount of loads for you or whatever. That's customer freight, basically, in a nutshell. Well, the spot market's fucking shit right now, because there's overcapacity of trucks. There's too many trucks in the market. So, which is because COVID, and spot rates went up, and everybody came into the market and all that shit. Plus, it just kind of happens a little bit sometimes, but not like this. So the tender rejection rate is when a company, say for instance, this one, has a customer contract, and what will happen is they'll have a certain amount of loads that they have to haul under the contract, and then the shipper will say, hey, you want these other 5 loads or whatever. And then if the spot market rates are high at that point in time, a lot of times the companies will go, no, we don't want those other loads, because the contract loads are solid, right? You're not going to have to worry about the market going up and down because you got it under a contract, but they don't pay as much. So if the spot market's paying real good, sometimes the truck company will reject those other loads so that they can keep their trucks on the spot market and make more money running on the spot market. So that's what tender rejection rate is, because then when they reject those loads, so let's say they reject those 5 loads, those 5 loads, now they go to the spot market. So then the spot market companies that are hauling off spot market got more loads to haul, right? If that makes sense. That's basically how that works. I don't really ever get into that whole market analysis bullshit, because that ain't this. You guys know that I don't make that kind of fucking channel. That's just boring to me. Sit and talk about statistics and all that stuff. Plus, it's all a bunch of bullshit, really, if you look at what everybody's saying. So anyway, typically the tender rejection rate is kind of a good way to gauge how the trucking market is. All right, it's not a great way to do it, but it's kind of one of the ways they gauge it. Well, typically the tender rejection rate is 15-20%. Right, it hovers right around there, right? It's fucking 5% right now. That's an all-time low, I think. So it's causing a lot of problems for people that are, companies that are running primarily off the spot market are actually going bankrupt, a lot of them. And drivers are losing their jobs and stuff. And yeah, it makes me a little nervous, don't get me wrong. 2008, shit hit the fan pretty bad. I think worse than this. I left the industry in 2008 because my wages went down by 20% for sure. And I was trucking all week on the road, or 2 weeks on the road, or whatever I was doing at the time. I remember looking at my checks going, well, fuck, I'm making 20% less and still doing the same amount of work. So I left the industry in 2008. And I started a lawn care, landscaping, snow removal business, property management business, and I ran that until like 2014, and then I went back into trucking in 2014. But the companies like this who have the customer contracts, you know, they're smart. The way that they play the whole thing is because, say, like during COVID when spot market rates were really high, like record level high, and the spot market guys were making fucking bank. Now, companies like this, yeah, so I'm just going to use an example. Let's say that during COVID, spot market rates were $2.50 a mile, right? Forget all the fuel surcharge and all that bullshit. I'm just making an example. Now, let's say this company signed on with a shipper and did a contract for $1.70 a mile. So obviously they're making a lot less a mile when they could have been making more. But they thought ahead because they've been around for a long time. And they know eventually, because that's how trucking is, man. It's like, you know what I mean? That's just how it goes, up and down, up and down. So the companies like this that survive, they thought ahead. And I know other companies too. I'm not just tooting the horn of this company because I'm not really connected to this company. I don't even fucking know these people, man. I don't really care about them. They don't care about me. I drive their truck. We make money together. But anyway, they went ahead and like took those contracts for $1.70 a mile because they knew down the road this shit would happen, and now they got the $1.70 a mile guaranteed instead of the $1.30 a mile or whatever the spot market's paying, which is legit. I don't know if it's really $1.30, but it has dropped like a huge amount like that. So it's a very smart thing to do, and what these companies like this are doing right now is the outbound customer freight. That's their bread and butter. That's where they're making their money. And then they get us out here, like when I deliver in South Dakota Tuesday, they're just going to grab a backhaul to get me back to Michigan, right? They're not going to be worried that much of what the backhaul pays because backhauls aren't paying. You know, backhauls are spot market. They're just going to want to get me back. They're going to do it at a low pay, maybe even break even, you know, or whatever, just to get this truck back so they can make money hauling the outbound, you know, if that makes sense. And they're also smart in the sense of, like, right now they're saying, which I kind of believe is actually a surplus of drivers, because you always hear like, oh, driver shortage, and then we got a surplus, and that's all a bunch of bullshit. But there probably is a surplus right now because of the freight volumes being so low, you know, and the capacity in the truck market. There's probably more drivers than what we need. I can agree with that at the moment, but that'll change. A lot of drivers will exit. A lot came in during COVID because they were on lockdown and trucking industry was still moving, so they came in, and now things are picking back up in other sectors, so they're probably going to exit the trucking industry anyway and go back to whatever they were doing before they lost their non-essential job, if that makes sense. And then some of it's just truckers just exit. They do it for a year or two and they go, fuck this lifestyle, you know, that's a huge thing. And they realize, like, man, this is bullshit. I'd rather work over at the fucking factory for $20 an hour than do that bullshit. It's a true thing. That's why the turnaround's high. So as people exit, you know, that'll change. And then down the road, watch, they're going to be, oh, driver shortage again. Well, see, companies like this are thinking this company's actually still hiring right now. Several of them around my area are. But this company here in the past, you'd run like 3,000 miles a week. You'd be running out of recaps, you know, shit like that. Because I know people who have worked here before. And I talked to them, you know. Talked to this company when I hired in. Like right now I'm running about 2,500, 2,700 miles a week. I'm getting home like every week. Now that works for me because I'm making 70 cents a mile. If I wasn't making 70 cents a mile, I'd be like, what the fuck? I ain't making no money. So they're kind of breaking their freight up a little bit. But they're keeping us all busy. Like, I noticed we're even hauling paper. A lot of times companies like this don't fuck around with bullshit paper loads. But they're probably doing it because they want to keep the drivers busy so that we're still around when the freight picks back up, because it will. It always does. I mean, go back and look at 2019. You know, they were, oh, you know, we're losing all these jobs, blah, blah. It did take a huge decline in 2022 or whatever. But, like, this is a little different, but this is a shakeup because of COVID. But it'll eventually, it'll pan back out again. It'll bounce back out. And then they'll need drivers, right?